मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी।
Well, my dear students, now this is 30th lecture in the series of mechanics of metal forming. If you recall back the upper bound formulation for 3-dimensional case, we are continuing, and last time we proposed a generalized upper bound formulation for any shape of extrusion. So, including re-entry shape as well as non-re-entry shape. So, we took certain the formulation, upper bound formulation methodology is starting with the kinematically admissible velocity field having streamlines, and then defining the streamline in a 3-dimensional equation, and then we proved that this particular streamline associated deformation field has been kinematically admissible on the grounds of constitutive equations and related equations, plasticity equations, as well as the stress and strain equations with other things, and some methodology how did it was to be converted. That was 3-dimensional case in generalized manner. As I told you, we would further continue, because last time we developed everything and ultimately one can find out the average pressure required for the extrusion for any shape. So, let us now start with the step whatever we discussed so far. Let us see this 8-step method that one can follow to propose any solution for any shape. So, these steps indicate the sequence of operation for obtaining the upper bound solution for a general non-re-entry shape. This one is shown a non-re-entry shape because if someone was absent last term, so the non-re-entry shape was defined this way. If it is a shape, so this is a general, it can be anything. So, from the center of gravity of the shape, if we take a ray and if we rotate this way clockwise or anti-clockwise, so you will find that across the boundary of the shape, this ray cuts, if it is only one intersection, so we call it as a non-re-entry shape. Otherwise, if it is 2 or more than 2 intersection at any point while you rotate, then it can be taken as a re-entry shape. So, the geometry of the shape whatever is to be extruded, in fact it is drawn in AutoCAD. One can use any platform of the AutoCAD. Then the DXF file is created. One has to create the DXF file, and then this DXF file corresponding to the shape to be extruded is processed to separate the line and arc entities, and then these line and arc entities are used for proposing the slices. And then these lines and arcs are further broken up into small lines, and if it is arc, then it is further broken into small lines. So that way we take the slicing mechanism that was proposed. So the steps are like, number one, that as this figure shows, the center of gravity that is of this particular cross section that has area capital AA of the shape is found using either you use AutoCAD to calculate this, or one can calculate as well. So because AutoCAD is convenient to calculate the area of whatever, because you are also creating the shape in AutoCAD, it is easier to work out. So then the second step, after the CG is found out and center of gravity is located, then this center of gravity, that is the XC and YC if it is taken as, and the cross sectional area, that is capital AA of the shape will be used. So then each arc and line entity, so we say that this, when we draw it in AutoCAD, we use line and arc only to create this closed shape. So if it is line, so if the longer line is used, so we have to break it into a smaller line, and if it is arc, then this arc is broken into smaller lines. So if the lines are very small, so it will represent a arc, and ultimately if you see the circle creation and all that, it is created in a segmented form if you enlarge it. So these arc and line entities is further divided into smaller lines, and those details one can see in the paper published. It is divided so that to decide the total number of minimum triangular power elements using the pseudo vertex concept. I told you that the pseudo vertex concept, if a longer line is there or an arc is there, so you have to create few more point in between line or arc, so that you get a smaller lines only. So that's, you put extra vertices between the given lines or arc. So that is what is called as the pseudo vertex, and that's the concept. So this ensures that incompressibility condition is satisfied, so that one can use that the summation of sigma I epsilon rate, that is the epsilon x dot plus epsilon y dot plus epsilon z dot is 0, the summation during the, then the fourth step, that from the previous step 3, the coordinate of each triangular power element are known now. So for the example, if you see this figure, the coordinate point of the power element 1, if we take, it is O, E1, E2 on the billet side, and O dash, E1 dash, E2 dash on the extruded product side. Since the coordinates of O dash, E1 dash, E2 dash are now known from step 2 and step 3, the angle psi 1 rather for the power element is found using a relationship which is similar to equation 7 previously, which was, so the percentage reduction per pass, if it is represented by RED, so one can find out by this equation. So that means the percentage reduction, and then using the percentage reduction one can find out the radius of the billet required for extruding a particular shape which is chosen. So the radius of billet required becomes under root capital A by capital AA divided by pi 1 minus 0.01 reduction RED, that's the radius, and one can find it out. Then the fifth step is that since the extrusion ratio as explained earlier in each power element is assumed to be constant. That means the area of triangle O dash, E1 dash, E2 dash by capital AA must be equal to area of triangle OE1 E2 by pi r 0 square. This is for element 1, and likewise for other elements. Like for the nth element, the area of triangle, that is O dash EN dash E1 dash by capital AA must be equal to the area of triangle OEN E1 by pi r 0 square. So that's likewise. Then the sixth step is the corresponding angle, that is phi 1. That is the angle phi 1 on the billet side of for the power element 1 is found using the equation which is shown earlier, and it is calculated as the cosine phi 1 and all that. The remaining n minus 1 included angles that corresponding to the various other power element on the billet side would be like phi 2, phi 3, dot dot dot, and phi n for other power elements. And on the product side, that is the angle psi 2, psi 3, psi n, etc., can be found out easily in a similar manner. So it can be found numerically that the sum of these angles of all the power element should be close to 2 pi radian. That means psi 1 plus psi 2 plus psi 3 plus likewise plus psi n at the end must be almost equal to 2 pi, and similarly phi 1 plus phi 2 plus phi 3, if you take 2 up to phi n, must always be equal to or approximately 2 pi, and therefore the average incompressibility, because for each such number of element we have to ensure the incompressibility, so we can define an average. That means average incompressibility, if it is defined as, that is the average epsilon average dot, so that would be the incompressibility in power element 1 plus power element 2 plus power element 3, likewise at the end power element n divided by n, because n number of power elements. So that now it should not be more than, that is plus minus 0.02. Usually it has to be 0, but let us keep it plus minus 0.02 because the numerically you are to calculate. So then if it is so, then it is assumed that it is within the acceptable limit. That means epsilon dot 1, epsilon dot 2, etc. are the incompressibility corresponding to each power element, as I said. So the seventh step is that the whole domain, which was shown earlier in figure 5, is divided into the n number of triangle power, and if you use the previous step for each power element, that is from element number 1 to element number 9, the total power consumed, that is the, if we say the psi t is the total power consumed, is found using the previous equation. So if xi t1, xi t2, xi 3, t3, etc. up to xi tn are the total power consumed in the power element number 1, number 2 up to number 9, then the overall power, that is xi 0 consumed in extruding the given shape through a given die profile can be found out, and that is nothing but the summation of xi t1 plus xi t2 plus likewise xi tn. And after, once we get the total overall power xi 0, xi o, Then the minimum power, that is xi minimum, at optimal dye length is found using Golden section unimodal optimization algorithm, and this algorithm which was proposed by Arora in 1989, that is used. So once the optimal power is found out, we get the P average, that is the extrusion power average for extruding the shape, and one can then find out RS, that is the extrusion stress, that is the stress, dye stress one can for the dye, as the formula was explained earlier. So the minimum power xi minimum at optimal dye length is it gives the corresponding P average as well, and this becomes the basis. One can use this power for designing the process. For designing the power required, one can add few more components so that you can select a proper motor as well, or you can select a proper press, working press for this, and that helps. So this process from the step from 1 to 7, which has been just now explained, it is shown here in 2-step flow chart. So the first step flow chart, one can see here that once you start, as I told you, have to draw the geometry in AutoCAD and use the line, circle, ellipse, arc, polyline entities for drawing it, and then once you draw and then you create a DXF file of this, then the DXF file has a certain format in fact. So this DXF file, the format may have like entities, line, then it has a certain code, then one has to process this DXF file, and after processing, segmentation of various vertices and edges data are collected, and then these data are arranged in a certain order so that it can be further utilized for the formulation. Once this data is obtained, a test is carried out that these data, including the pseudo vertices, so once it is connected at in an order, so it has to satisfy the incompressibility condition as well as the geometrical Euler's condition, that means total number of faces must be equal to the Euler's according to the Euler's method. So if it is so, if it is okay, then you go to the next next phase of that goes directly to the upper bound formulation, because earlier I did not explain. So but this is the first phase is required: drawing of the object, creating the DXF file, and then separating the entities and further refining the entities according to the pseudo vertices, and then checking that if these entities are used for creating different slices, so each slice has to maintain that the incompressibility condition has to be maintained. So if it is not, if this incompressibility condition is not maintained, or if the Euler condition is not maintained, then you have to again go back to the current file, that is the drawing, and you make changes in that and then again go back. So this process repeated unless you get the final data of the shape, including pseudo vertices, including the incompressibility condition checked and the Euler's condition checked. Once it is okay, then one can go to the second step, and then the second step, as I told you, so it has, this data has to again check whether the edges of the features, we call this shape later as a feature, are all right. Then one can generate the pseudo, further one can generate pseudo vertices, so that the line, you have only line entities, no arc entities remains. And once then you check the incompressibility again, and if there is any error, so we can tolerate the incompressibility error up to 2% or at the maximum. If it is not so, so you have to again change the data and accordingly do the job further in iteration. If it is okay, then you input the process parameter of the extrusion, that is the what type of die you are going to choose, what type of velocity of the extrusion ram is to be you have to provide, then the friction condition has to be provided, then the billet condition, whether it is rough or the that means the flow stress of the material, the billet material are to be provided, and in the form of stress strain curve, and the percent reduction you want to have. Certainly this process, this upper bound formulation is proposed for cold conditions, so the temperature is not there. So once this is there, then using the proposed upper bound method, one can calculate the frictional power, deformation power, and the discontinuity power for each power element, and sum it up to get the overall power element. And then you use the golden section method, golden section optimization method, for finding out the optimal power. So and once you get the optimal die length, then you can choose the corresponding average extrusion pressure, and once you get the average extrusion pressure, that is the answer. If it is not so at any step, then you have to again check the die length, change the die length, and again iterate between by change die length unless you get the optimal die length by golden section method. So that's how the process. Second, this is the second stage. So it's a very straightforward, simple, but the beauty of the process is that it is a generalized in method. You can now design for any shape, any geometry for extrusion. Whatever methodology is proposed, to check whether it is okay or not, unless you check the results with certain experimental value, that is the validation, one cannot make sure that it is okay or not. So many it has been already tested. So to test the validity of this particular model, the results out of this are compared with experimental result, particularly Yang and co-researcher, and if you take the 90 paper of Yang et al., they started with 4th order polynomial die profile, and they took a 25 mm die length, and they chosen the material as steel AISI 4140 as well as aluminum 2024. So with the strain hardening relationship, as like the generalized stress was 418.9 plus 699 generalized stress raised to the power 0.2 266, and this was for your steel, and the another for the aluminum was used as 118.7 plus 229.4 generalized stress to the power 0.247 megapascal. So these two material was used, and with this strain hardening relationship. So if you look at this figure 7 here, the variation of the extrusion pressure with percentage reduction for steel and aluminum is shown. So one can see here, this is the comparison of extrusion pressure with experiment of this one. So you can see the experimental value and the which is shown here, that is the average extrusion pressure with reduction. This is what's the variation, and that's true also, and it is very well verified with the experimental value by the Yang 1990 as well as the present method. So it is quite satisfactory therefore. So the variation of the extrusion pressure shows that the results are in good agreement with the experimental result. If you see the figure number 8, this shows the variation of total extrusion power and its two constituents with respect to the die length for a third order polynomial die, and for percentage reduction as 50%, ram velocity as 1 mm per second, and friction coefficient as 0.5. So it is observed that the internal power of deformation decreases with the length while the frictional power increases. As a result of the total extrusion power has a minimum value at some length, that is L optimal. Similar variation is also observed for conical dies. It is also observed that the power loss due to velocity discontinuity decreases with the length, one can see here. So if you see the figure number 8, this is what's the power for, that is the different power, that is the frictional power, internal power of deformation, and this is what's the discontinuity power. So these are shown, and this is with relative die length. So up to here there is a, up to 0.6 there is a almost these two power, that is your friction, internal power of deformation and TP, there is a very drastic drop, but after that but on the other hand the frictional power increases as you increase the relative die length. So if you look into the profile, die profile of different dies, when you extrude the aluminum 2024 as well as other one, so this die profile, the extrusion power is compared here in this table. So you look at this for the situation when there is a 50% reduction, coefficient of friction is 0.1 and R0 is 12.5 mm and velocity, billet velocity is taken as 1 mm per second. So it is generally believed that streamlined dies require less power as there is no power losses at the inlet and exit section. Okay. So this result is shown here in this table, and that supports this assertion. So based on the consideration of total extrusion power, it is found that the third order polynomial dies and the cosine dies are the best one. So this conclusion suggests that no advantage is gained by increasing the order of polynomial when constructing a streamlined die. while the whole upper bound method to tell you the good aspect of upper bound method corresponding to 3D, then the computational test was also carried out for this case. So, the CPU time, it depends on the number of kinematically admissible power elements. So, if generally when this test was carried out around few years before, that time there was a Pentium 1 machine. So, the Pentium 1 was taking around 0.17 second per iteration for one power element, and within 5 to 6 iteration the whole thing was converging, right, and the accuracy level was kept as 0.1. So, the CPU time certainly now with the today's computer, it will be very fraction of second, 0.1 second if for Pentium 1. So, now today the Core 7 is available. So, you can imagine how fast it is. Very quickly, the 1,000 of this second you can now further reduce. So, and when the geometry is complex, then the computational time takes more, but when the geometry is symmetric, it reduces drastically, because the symmetry you need not to calculate for all the power elements. The symmetrical power elements just can be calculated once and multiplied by 2 or 3, something like that. So, here is the result, one has to note it. So, this is what's the, for the third order, if you see, for the streamlined, fourth streamlined eye, elliptical and conical. So, third order you see the extrusion power is 411.5 watt with the L opt by R0 is 2, and here on the other hand, if you see the conical die is 601 and the elliptical die is 568. So, the third order is the minimum, that is experimentally also verified. Then another test was carried out to test the upper bound method proposed. So, another test was carried out for very complex shape. So, in fact, the another research group Lee ETEL in 1990 itself conducted room temperature experiment for various non-reentry shape, like the rounded square, then the ellipse, then the clover section and tropocoidal section. One can see these sections are shown here in figure. So, this is rounded square and this is the outer one is the billets, elliptical, outer one is the billet, this is the clover section and this is the tropocoidal section. So, it is all falls into the non-reentry shape. So, the geometrical details for this shape for rounded and square and ellipse was taken from Young ETL 1986 paper, and the clover and tropocoidal gear section was taken from Lee ETL 1990 paper. So, the process parameter for these cases, all the 4 cases are taken as, that is R0 is 14.75 mm and 4th order die profile with L by R0 as 2, V0 as 1 mm per second and M was taken, that the friction condition as 0.12. That is also the process condition whatever has been there in paper. And for the aluminum material was chosen having a proper stress strain curve, which is shown here. So, the generalized stress is 50 plus 300.7 generalized strain raised to the power 0.144 megapascal. So, this has been the situation. So, for each shape the step 1 to 8 which was explained earlier, so are carried out and the results obtained are compared, and that results are shown here in this table. So, now if you look at this table, the values shows a very good agreement with the experiments, as well as the CPU time is relatively very less, but no doubt there is a large variation in optimal pressure in some of the cases. So, here is the result. So, one can see these results, and there was further example one can see here that is square section. So, the reductions for the square and ellipse are 60%, where the trochoidal was reduction as 45.1%. So, and a factor which is star, as shown as a star, are given here, and this is what is given as your the shapes which is derived from the Lee and Lee 1990 paper, this factor. CPU time is also written, and this is the p average, experimental p average, which is theoretically obtained by these researchers, that is the square and ellipse, the theoretical result what they obtained, the and in case of the Clover and trochoidal by Lee et al. 1990, and this is what is the proposed result by our case, means by this methodology. So, one can see here in all the case there is a upper slightly 8 to 12% or rather 19% in this case for the Clover. So, this is higher side because we are proposing upper bound. So, certainly it has to be higher from the experimental result. It is being compared with the experiment here. So, but you please note that these proposed result by this particular upper bound method, it is better than the previous results, theoretical result proposed by your Lee and Young in 1990 and others. So, that means this result is much better, it is quite good. So, that is the beauty of this particular. Another test, another experiment was carried out with this figure, which is a square section. This is chosen to study the effect of various extrusion parameters now. So, if you look at this figure, the variation of extrusion pressure with reduction for a third order diprofile is chosen, and it can be seen that by increasing the reduction, both optimal die length and extrusion pressure increases, one can see here. So, the variation of relative extrusion pressure with friction and die length, that is the percentage reduction at 80%, here it shows that the increasing the friction R0 increases RS, that is the die stress, but the optimal die length decreases, which is shown here. So, whereas in this figure shows the variation of RS, that is the die stress with friction at different reductions, and it is clear that the RS increases almost linearly with increase in reduction as well as friction. So, the trend which is obtained here from this figure again shows it is very close agreement with the earlier results, which was carried out way back in 1985 by Gunasekara at TL. So this is what's the figure square section and the reductions. So reduction 40, 60 and 80%, corresponding billet radius are shown, and this is the variation of extrusion stress. This is another one where the variation of relative stress with friction and die length at 80% reduction is there. This is another where the variation of relative extrusion pressure with friction at different reductions are shown. So out of these discussion, what we conclude? The first conclusion is that this particular upper bound solution, in nutshell, it is very useful as compared to the slip line method and the slab method. Now it is acceptable that it can be used for three-dimensional generalized shapes. So because the proposed two-step method, as it has also been tested on the experimental basis, on the earlier co-worker, other researchers like Lee and Young etc., computational basis, this seems to be good enough, and it has better and suitable for applying therefore for extrusion problems where the complicated shapes and the use of general die profiles are possible. So one can go for elliptical die, one can go for streamlined die, one can go for conical die, one can go even for flat die with this analysis. And because it predicts the extrusion power and the relative die parameter, reasonably very accurate results. The predicted result or the predicted trends are optimal die length and die profiles are also in conformity, in good conformity with the published results. The major advantage of the present concept is that it can be extended for re-entry shape and can easily be used for developing computer aided process planning system for extrusion shape, because the methodology nature is generalized, so it can be used for computerized process plan for generating, for suggesting process parameter as well as load requirement etc. So in fact this procedure has been published and it is acceptable, and we ourselves and the students that are working under me have carried out many experiments as well as here at ITBHU, and have further found and motivated that the work is very good nature. So here are some of the references given to you for your, so this is the first reference which is by Reddy, Dikshit and G.K. Lal, which is the design for die design for axis symmetric extrusion. It was published in Material Processing Technology volume 55 page 331 to 339, and this work, that is a feature recognition methodology, was also published for the extruded product. And after that an ASME publication which is shown here, that is what's the work which is discussed here, published in ASME. So we would further continue in the next lecture with some of the results that for the complicated shapes, and that we will show these in the next lecture, where we would certain more things related we would discuss, so that the people, if one want to work with the analysis part in extrusion particularly, so this is the only way. If you leave apart the finite element analysis, so this is the only way one can explore and one can get answer to all kind of die design and all kind of parametric design, etc. So with this we would once again meet in the next lecture, but I thank you very much for your patience, listening very carefully, very silently. I thank you very much, but please don't forget to give your comments on the deliveries, including the video quality, including the voice quality, including the type of material, slide material which has been placed, and the questions which has been on the net. So please don't forget, you give your feedback, and I thank you once again. Thank you very much.